Michelle's Patisserie, Michelle's Patisserie, Michelle's Patisserie, the finest cakes that you've ever seen.
Michelle's Patisserie was founded in its current format in 1988 by joint managing directors Noel Carroll and Noel Roberts. The franchisor and franchisee profit partnership has a strong foundation to grow and expand over the years to come. The award-winning Michelle's Patisserie system is 100% Australian-owned and is currently used in over 200 outlets.
The business is essentially two types. The first one is the bakery/production side of the business, which we handle here at Granville. And the second side of the business is the retail business. Now, our model is quite unique in that by dividing those two distinct areas, we've been able to take away the production side from the retail side, which means that our franchisees just have to concentrate on retailing. They're not required to learn how to bake the products. They don't need to get up early in the morning and spend hours making what they need to sell. All they've got to do is concentrate on selling it at retail. So it's quite a simplistic model from a franchising point of view, and strategically it's worked well in our favour because it enables us to expand rapidly at a lower cost base because we're not putting in kitchens in every store. The only thing they have to make in stores are coffees. And every afternoon they do an order, replenish the stock that's sold or adjust their orders for the coming day and place the order again. We receive the order in the afternoon and we bake through the night in our 4 bakeries down here to produce what's required. It's picked up by our distribution network at about 2 a.m. Stores usually receive their order no later than 7:30 in the morning. We have about 290 product lines. It's quite a large range of products that franchisees can get at any one time, and we're constantly adding new products to the range. We add new products to the range at about 2 a month. The cake range contributes most of the sales for franchisees at their store. It's varying from state to state. Between 65 and 70% of turnover is in the cake range. We've tried to keep the retail model as simplistic as possible, so we have applied the same gross profit percentage to all product. So the franchisee, all they need to realise is that the more they sell, the greater dollar turnover, the greater profit they make. So the margin on a pie at $2.90 is exactly the same margin as they would have if they sold a cake at $29. Michelle's Patisseries have franchised as much of the business as we can. In fact, I regard us as a marketing company more than a retailer. Our distribution runs are all privately owned. Our bakeries here, we've got this large bakery, which is the biggest privately owned bakery in the Southern Hemisphere. We've divided it into 4, and each of those sections is privately owned. So we purchase the product off those private contractors, we apply our own margin to it, and on-sell it to our franchisees. The appeal to them of our business is that it is a simple system. It's a retail business where they have no food preparation. It's a food business where they have no food preparation, so that's a benefit in itself. There are no royalties in our system. Unlike traditional franchise operations who charge a royalty, we don't charge a royalty because we make our margin through the sale of cakes. When people come to us looking to purchase a franchise, we provide what's called a turnkey operation. We provide the franchisee with a minimal 4-week training period.
Yep. Let's go now into our books and let's price it out. Let's price out this cake for us.
They are required to demonstrate they have the finance or the capability of raising the finance. They need to put to us a business plan. Then once they pass the training assessment, we'll have another look at them and have a chat with them, and from there they're ready to go into their store. The decision to expand the business internationally was never intentionally at the beginning of the business. But over the last 4 to 5 years, we've realised that we are here to stay. This business is not a fly-by-night business anymore. We have a strong position in the market and we need to keep growing. Over the last couple of years too, we've reached a critical mass, particularly here in New South Wales, and the Queensland and Victorian market, we're reaching good store numbers there as well. So it was about 2 or 3 years ago that we realised that we needed to look elsewhere for growth opportunities, because if we didn't, then our business would stagnate. We probably have about another 3 or 4 years worth of strong growth here in Australia before we're going to saturate the market. So it was timely that we started to look at other opportunities. We decided to look at internationally on an informal basis. So we didn't go through any formal process of allocating resources and establishing a project team and hiring consultants and doing those sorts of things. We just did it by ourselves, based on our own experience, and were prepared to take it slowly, one step at a time. When we started looking at other markets, we did the same, as in just making some inquiries here from Australia, and then we decided to go to the franchise show in Singapore. So we took a stand there, flew over and started to, well, just presented our business in front of the Asian market, and also took the opportunity to go around and look at the Singapore and Malaysian market. After looking at the international market, there were a few things that I decided would be beneficial in our expansion overseas. Firstly, it would be beneficial to establish in a country that is English-speaking or has a high degree of English-speaking people there. Western values or culture, or is open to Western culture, is governed by a stable government, and preferably something along the lines of a Westminster system, an open government process. And they were the key things that we were initially looking for, and that's why Singapore, Malaysia and New Zealand are appealing to us. But as word got out within our existing network that we were looking at overseas, we had some inquiries from local people here, franchisees, and it made me realise that we have a diverse, multicultural pool of people right here in Australia. And they were, some people from different countries that were Michelle's franchisees here in Sydney were saying, gee, we'd like to know more about what you're doing in Shanghai, or are you planning to go to Dubai, and all these sorts of things. It made me realise that maybe we should be looking inside first, as opposed to going overseas and linking up with partners that we don't know. It may be beneficial to link up with people who know our business, who are successful in our business, and we know very well.
Michelle's Patisserie, Michelle's Patisserie, Michelle's Patisserie, the finest cakes that you've ever seen.
I started to then look internally at the operators we had, and one of those operators was a Chinese gentleman who has been involved in Michelle's for the past 16 years.
At that time, we started thinking about the move Michelle's patisserie business to Shanghai. And then my father-in-law was a businessman in Shanghai. And then I spoke to him about that great idea he felt a great interest about. In the meantime, two nose felt the same thing.
We had to weigh up the pros and cons of going with the gentleman that expressed an interest. The fours were that he knew the market and that he had contacts in Shanghai. He had very good contacts in government and in retail in Shanghai, which we had been advised is essential if you're looking at expanding in China.
We went to Shanghai on July 2003 for the purpose of visiting our parents and friends. then we found a mature business chance for Michel's Patisserie to be operated in Shanghai again.
The cons for going with somebody in-house was that he has a business here, so he would be required to divide his time between two businesses, more importantly between two countries, 11-hour difference between the two, and he had to satisfy us that he could give proper attention to both businesses.
When I first brought this idea up to Chris's attention, he was so excited because I think at the time Michel's want to sort of improve Michel's profile from a national company to international company.
Well, when you want to look about the lessons of Australian companies in China, I think the ones that have done well have done a lot of their market research up front. They've actually been driven by opportunities from China. I mean, they've actually had the order from China placed here, and that's sort of driven them straight into the market. The ones who haven't done so well are the ones I thought, who think it's just, this big gold rush and you can get in, get rich and get out pretty quick.
I think there are a lot of people who is just seeing as opportunists. They don't have a long-term commitment. And what we see about Australian company as well as other foreign companies, you need a long-term business plan and you need a long-term commitment.
When we were considering going into China, part of the research we did was looking into their tastes and talking to a few people who were there and also just following through with Austrade and a few other organisations. We were quite confident that their tastes were becoming more westernised, and that was certainly endorsed when we went over and viewed the market. They seem to love nearly everything Western, and particularly with patisserie products, they have established chains, patisserie chains in China already, doing cakes similar to ours.
When we went to Shanghai on July 2003, we found a lot of cake shops in there, and also one of the coffee shop called Starbucks, which is from USA, and in there and had very good business.
我觉得我喜欢星巴克是因为我觉得星巴克的环境蛮好的，然后呢挺热闹的，然后就像 Randy 说的一样，我觉得找个朋友在这里做也挺方便的哈，是这样的。就这样哦。
Coffee was presented to us as a luxury product, and again, unlike the commodity that it is here, where people buy coffee, daily. It was a social occasion for Chinese to go out and have coffee. It was a treat. Well, we realised in China and in Shanghai that while there was a lot of people, not everybody could afford our product. We knew that we would be pitching our product to the elite 5% of the market. And knowing that there's 18 million people in Shanghai, we still believed that that was viable. We knew that it was going to be a slow process, and we knew that as the economy improved and people's standards of living improved, then the opportunities for us to expand would coincide with that. We were advised that franchising was a growing concept in China, but it was not highly regulated, and that it was still in its infancy. So we expected that we would have trouble securing franchisees initially. When we looked at the legal framework in China, we were advised that yes, there was a framework for franchising in China, but it kept moving, and while there were rules and regulations, everyone knew the ways around the rules and the regulations, and you need to be in the know to be able to do that.
A lot of experts advise us there's a sort of a risk for Michel's to run a business in Michel's Australian style, franchising style, because the law is not mature, especially when a franchisor is from a foreign country. We are totally not protected by Chinese law.
Well, I think the legal framework in China is very important. Since the joining of China to the WTO, there's been a lot of legislation that's made it much easier in terms of corporate governance, in terms of intellectual property. So it's much more transparent environment for Australian exporters in China. There's a lot of Australian law firms acting there as well, so that gives people a bit of access, which helps. But given the penetration of Western companies in terms of investment and trade in China, you're not on your own. So.
The environment is quite international. It's a metropolitan city in Shanghai, and the average buying power is growing, and especially on the food and the clothing items. The housing is a little bit restriction because of the population here in China, but in terms of food and clothing, there are so many Western brands here in Shanghai, and there are so many foreign outlets.
Well, if people are coming to us and saying we want to make a choice of China versus New Zealand versus another market, I'd say in certain sectors, obviously China's your main bet. I mean, overall, China's probably going to be our #1 destination by 2012 for exports. So it is the big story. If you're looking for a growing market, it's a big story.
Michel's Patisserie, Michel's Patisserie, Michel's Patisserie, the finest cakes that you've ever seen.
The options when you look at expanding is either you use your own money or you use somebody else's money. And as a company, Michel's are quite comfortable using our own money when we do an assessment of the risks. And we would be more comfortable using our own money in a market that we're very comfortable that we can control or be good at. China was a different one for us. So by reducing the risk significantly to the point that there is no risk for us other than perhaps damage of the brand, perception of the brand, and given that we are 11,000 kilometres away and what we do in China does not significantly impact on what we are doing here in Australia, we felt that that was negligible as well.
We are given license for operating Michel's Patisserie in Shanghai by Michel's Patisserie Australia, and they licensed to Australian company which is owned 100% owned by us. Then we further sub-licensed to a joint venture company which is 51% owned by us, 49% owned by our partner in Shanghai.
But the model that we have there is very similar to what we have here. The territory licensee provides retail support, provides marketing support for the stores and the franchisees, is responsible for securing franchisees and sites for the expansion of the business, as well as the production aspects or the logistics side of the business as well.
然后我们也去考察 Starbucks， 因为他们的模式呢跟 Michel's 差不多，也是蛋糕加咖啡这样子。我们认为在澳洲生意很好，在上海肯定也会生意很好。
By putting somebody between us and China and having that arm's length relationship, we haven't diminished our control over the business. We have structured the territory agreement with our Australian company in such a way that they are obliged to fulfil the terms and conditions of the contract like anybody else, and they have sub-licensed the same rights and responsibilities to their Chinese company. So if there is an issue in China that's not to our liking, if the product is not to our liking, if our image is being portrayed in a way that's unsatisfactory to us, the Australian territory licensee is in breach of our agreement with him, and we can exercise our rights through that agreement that we have. So We've been able to stay at arm's length, but without losing any control or influence on the direction of the business or the way the business is run.
We set up the bakery, which is in the countryside, 40 km away from the center city of Shanghai. We set up there, we bought a land, a building, all right, we put all the heavy equipment in. We are ready for have at least a 20-30 store in the first year. This is our original business plan.
我们最初的厂呢，在松江很大很大一个厂，大概有2000多平米，但是呢很远，因为我们也是完全遵循在澳洲那套做法。
We purposely took a large building in anticipation of growth. We then established, first of all, one store in Shanghai, in Gubei in January, and we were delivering to that store. That was a company store. And then we established a second store on Waihai Road in about May, which is also a company store. Since May, we have opened stores under a franchise arrangement.
We thought selling franchises will be successful because we just followed the Australia way. We thought it happened in Australia, it does work, like Michelle's Patisserie, so it should happen in China. But when we get back to China, we started doing the things and we found it's wrong.
Since May, we have opened stores under a franchise arrangement. We've had to close some stores as well because the locations have not been right, the cost structures have been too high, and the business hasn't been there. And we've had to adjust the model going forward. It's been a really good learning curve for us. The store in Waihai Road, which is 800 square metres, which would make it the biggest Michelle's Patisserie in the world. The biggest store we have in Australia is 150 square metres. We had to work out, I never wanted them to take it, but once they took it, we had to work out a way of making it work. To their credit, we started to look at other retailers who may want to share the space. We've done a deal with McDonald's, and the store's closed now while we rebuild the store as a McDonald's restaurant with a Michelle's Patisserie in it. And by that way, we're going to trade off the traffic flow that McDonald's generate, which is just astronomical. They are going to take 95% of the space and pay 100% of the rent. We're going to have our store there with minimal rent, and we should have a profitable business there, and we're still on Waihai Road. The store that we've just opened has our bakery behind it. It's newer, it's moderner, it's closer to our other stores. Our distribution costs are lower, our occupancy costs are lower, we've got access to more labour. So in all aspects, it's a positive move for us.
那么我们后来把那个工厂呢就搬到直西路。直西路呢刚开始的时候，的确，很多顾客盈门，就是他们很接受这种模式，就前店后作坊，因为是居民区嘛，所以我们那里做出来的面包呢销路很广，很好。
We brand ourselves in English as well as Chinese, but all our menus are in English with minor Chinese subtitles, as opposed to being Chinese signs and Chinese menus and with minor English. We go the other way around. We're an Australian company. We promote our origins and we promote the fact that we're not from China.
很多不是很成功的因素呢，还在于 Michelle's Patisserie 呢，很多上海人、包括日本人、台湾人，他们都不明白这上面什么意思，就是包括这个 Patisserie， 他们都以为是卖披萨的。
When we started set up the business in Shanghai, the first thing I found from the shop of the view is very hard to deal with the local government. It's very hard.
And you also have to choose the right partner, because the partner is very important. You don't know the Chinese market very well, and maybe if you choose to establish as a wholly owned foreign enterprise, you still have to employ some people who have the local expertise and the knowledge and the network as well as the connection.
The Chinese government says everything's open. you are welcome to China to do the business. But actually, when you set up a store, it's really hard for you. This is not ready, that is not ready, and you're so confused. The paperwork they give to you, you follow up to do it, and you find that it's totally different.
When we decided which product range we will sell Michelle's in Shanghai, we had a sort of different opinion. I think Michelle's patisserie products is too heavy, too sweet, and I'd like to heavily modify the product, Michelle product in Shanghai.
So we wanted to preserve our key product lines, but we also realised that we had to make some of the traditional products that they're used to, a la the mousse cakes and the chestnut cakes and those sorts of things. So our range in China has been modified to match the Chinese taste.
My wife Jean had a different view. She insisted on the same product range into even the same looking into the cabinet in the Michelle's Shanghai store.
上海人呢觉得米歇尔斯这个蛋糕呢，对于他们来说口味太甜，而且呢，他们觉得这个蛋糕的样式呢比较简单，不是做得很漂亮。因为上海也有很多品牌的蛋糕嘛，竞争也很厉害，他们都觉得好像你这个蛋糕样子不好看。
So then we take a 50-50. I pick up a major range of Michelle's products like chocolate mud cake, fresh cream gâteau, and Sonnery, which is a fresh cream gâteau as well. A lot of just the top sales products in Australia I pick up there. Then we modify other products. We put more decorations on the top. But the inside is the same thing inside. We just look like a classic, look classic, to be more attractive to Chinese customer. Then they prove that my wife is right.
因为很多上海人都是这么说，都说澳洲蛋糕太甜，然后很老土的，就是我们一定呢要推出一些就是样式好看的蛋糕来吸引他们，因为他们买蛋糕，上海人买蛋糕都是首先注重的是那个外形，要好看、炫目，而那个味道呢是其次，因为他们买蛋糕一般都是送人的，不是自己吃。买大蛋糕一般是送人的，但是很多比较传统的澳大利亚的蛋糕呢，我们不能变，否则我们就失去了这个米歇尔斯这种特有蛋糕的，应该说是特有蛋糕的那个样式吧。
Our savoury line of products, which is a large contributor to our sales here in Australia, is not present in China. We are experimenting with pies now, but the fillings of pies are different from the fillings that we use here. For example, where we love beef, the Chinese don't eat a lot of beef in this way, so we're experimenting with chicken and pork and other fillings in pies. And we have a couple of pies now available for sale, but we're finding that it's not popular and it's an education process. The first couple of stores we opened were more our traditional cafe-style stores where we thought coffee would drive the business, and we're finding that the coffee sales are a lot lower than what we anticipated. Coffee is still a luxury product over there and is not readily affordable. So not everybody in China can afford to drink coffee, and they certainly can't afford to drink coffee on a daily basis.
And also we keep telling our client is you have to have your expectations and double your time and the budget.
Whenever you're deciding you're export ready, you've got to do your homework, and don't assume because a country's got 1.3 billion people that you can sell one to everyone.
Pairing that up with the opportunity in coffee, even though we knew that we were premature with the coffee opportunity, we felt it was great to be in there now and be part of the education process of coffee. And that's what I believe the approach that Starbucks have taken, in that they don't see it as a profitable operation in its formative years, but they are in the process of educating potentially 1 billion Chinese on how to drink coffee.
Starbucks is not making money at all in Shanghai. In terms of a store retail, per store. They're not making money at all. But why they still want to do that? Why they still want to do that? They want to make a brand awareness. They make their brand to be so attractive to the Chinese people. So this is what we're wondering, what we're doing now. We are business. We want to do Michel's Patisserie. We just want to Michel's Patisserie, business of Michel's Patisserie to be successful. We don't want to make a bigger brand of Michel's Patisserie.
是一个，就说你跟朋友说在哪里见，他们会知道在哪里找你，然后它比较干净，然后你知道这个咖啡的质量是怎么样，你知道你怎么样，你会得到什么样的咖啡。如果你去
I don't know that much of detail about the operation of Starbucks or Häagen-Dazs, but they have been quite successful. And from my point of view, is they have a very long-term commitment, and they put the outlet and they do the promotion, advertising. It's quite expensive exercise, but you have to do it in order to be the number one in this market.
综合了一下，就觉得以后如果我们要把这个生意做上去，应该怎么做呢？就是首先我们还是要多做广告，我们要做电视广告，还在杂志上还有那报纸上要做广告。以前我们也做过，今后呢还要继续做。就是当然这种投入是很大的，有时候呢只能在1-2个礼拜里面，看得出这种效果。
The way we were suggested to us that we need to do it to succeed was the big bang approach, and we've just gone on gut feel, instinct, and our skill, and we're there. And I honestly don't think that where we are now in China would be any different had we gone that way or this way. I think that the results would be the same.
And the Western culture, Western way of doing things are not working in Shanghai.
I think Michel's Patisserie has been operating in China, and they have been relying heavily on their business partner here.
We meet some problem and we have discussed them. Yes, and now they agreeing us to do some change, small change.
The business in China has been established now for nearly 12 months, and it's been very interesting. We've had to close stores, and we've had to adjust the model going forward. It's been a really good learning curve for us.
I can see a bright future for Michel's business in Shanghai. But at this stage, we have to be patient because there's a lot of hard work required to build up to open a market, to build up a brand awareness. I'd like people in Shanghai to think about Michel's when they think about real estate.
Over the next 12 to, say, 24 months in China, what I'd like to see us do is concentrate on making sure the model is right and that we're opening stores in Shanghai. We've got 4 stores over there in operation now, and as I said, we've opened some and we've closed some. I believe that we can open stores around about at a frequency rate around about 8 a year, providing that each one we build is successful and is profitable. It may not be super profitable. It may just be a break-even proposition, but as long as it's established and is going to be there for a long time, and we don't have to go back and keep changing things.
吸收以前的教训，就是一直在一个店还没有打好基础的情况下，赶快又开另外一个店，我们就希望呢脚踏实地，一个做好了再做另外一个。
From my point of view, China is a long-term proposition for us. I think if you go to China, you've just got to be prepared to work at it and stay there. And I honestly believe that over a period of time, you will be successful. But if you go there with millions and millions of dollars and throw it all there one time and want a return on that investment in the short term, then you're going to get burnt, in my view. So let's just stay in the Shanghai market. Let's build a brand in the Shanghai market. Let's get customers in Shanghai aware of our product, and then we'll increase the number of resources there and look at other markets.
We have a very close relationship with Michelle's headquarters in Australia, and they are very care about how Michelle's is going in there because they want to become an international profile company.
Given the successes and the failures, I'm really happy with where we are now, because the way they started the business I wasn't comfortable with, and unfortunately they've had to lose some money to learn from their lessons. But the way we're going now, which is more along the lines that I envisaged our establishment and expansion into China, is starting to work for them.
We believe if we work hard and we do everything we can do, we will succeed.
I know that there was some comment from within the industry very early on in the piece that we'd stuffed it up and that we're not going to last there. And, you know, I can understand where those comments were coming from, but we've gone beyond that. Long term, I think it's going to work. And for Michelle's as a company to do China the way we have, we've done it on a shoestring. But when you're looking at 1 billion people long term and 18 million people in one city, you know, we've got 285 stores here in Australia. We think we can get more than 700-800 stores here in Australia with a population of 20 million. So what's the future for us in China? It's just unbelievable. But you've got to be there to start. And I think, you know, we've only just scratched the surface, but we're there. We've got a toehold, I guess. And we intend to cling on for as long as we can.
Thank you.